when you open the door for somebody else.
Welcome, everyone, to the Vaccine Conversation with Melissa and Dr. Bob. This is my dentist chair voice. I feel like some elevator music should be in the background. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Press 0 to speak to a representative.
We have to do these morning episodes more often.
Stop eating on the podcast. Dr. Bob is officially no longer allowed to eat on the podcast. By the way, yes, I know half of you are applauding out there. I agree. Okay, so welcome to another interesting episode of our podcast, season 2, which I'm loving and getting so many great things about. Oh, speaking of which, didn't I want to read that? I'm going to read something. I'm going to read a review that a nice review that we got yesterday that I am going to find and read.
So many amazing reviews. They're just so touching. I love, and we haven't had a negative review in a very long time. So we're solidly 5 stars.
We've had not a negative review. We've had some of the most introspective and thorough and emotionally open and so full of praise reviews. Like, people are really taking time to write things that, like, every time I'm surprised. I mean, I'm just like, wow. And I told Dr. Bob before this season 2, I said, you know what? I want to do this season differently. I want it to be a little deeper. I want us to go a little further. I want it to be a little less silly, funny, and lighthearted, like we've kind of kept it. And
which is impossible for me to not be funny, though. So it's hard.
I like that we had that in season 1. Obviously, we just got into this. We started this whole process by just pressing record and going. So there really wasn't, any like thought and planning and preparation. And we don't outline episodes and go, we're going to talk about this for 20 minutes. We really just press record and we just start talking. So the season 1 is maybe a byproduct of that. It's just the fact there wasn't
much. You guys
are
welcome.
Organization. And that's good too. I mean, we do get a lot of reviews that say that they love how it's fun and entertaining and lighthearted too, because this issue is so heavy. So I'm happy for that too. But I did say season 2, I want to go a little bit deeper with this one. I want to make sure our interviews are, even more of a highlight. I want to make sure that we really talk about more and do so in a more emotional way and allow ourselves to kind of have that and bring you some really interesting and different things. So I'm really happy that you guys are taking that in, and it's exactly what I wanted. So it's always so great when you have this idea and then you see it in action, and then you see people respond to it and say, this is exactly what I wanted. Right. And so that makes me feel really good. And one of the, go ahead. Jinx. One of the reviews we just got on iTunes, I thought was really nice because she used a quote from some type of writing that I'll listen here. But so this review is titled Inspired Starfish. And it says, I've been binge listening since I found this podcast and I can't get enough. The information you share motivates me to learn more as it relates to my immune system as well as infectious diseases, and it empowers me to speak confidently with others on my decisions for my family. I will continue listening and sharing because the information is so important, easy to listen to, educational, and I absolutely love the integrity and heart behind your mission. Thank you for all the hard work you do for being such an amazing resource on this topic. I came across this story and I couldn't help but think of you guys. You have made a difference in my life and have inspired me to make a difference in others because of the work you do and are doing. Keep it up. So that was just amazing in itself. And then she includes this quote. It says, a young girl was walking along a beach upon which thousands of starfish had been washed up during a terrible storm. When she came to each starfish, she would pick it up and throw it back into the ocean. People watched her with amusement. She had been doing this for some time when a man approached her and said, little girl, why are you doing this? Look at this beach. You can't save all these starfish. You can't begin to make a difference. The girl seemed crushed, suddenly deflated, but after a few moments she bent down, picked up another starfish, and hurled it as far as she could into the ocean. Then she looked up at the man and replied, well, I made a difference to that one. The old man looked at the girl inquisitively and thought about what she had done and said, inspired, he joined the little girl, throwing the starfish back into the sea. Soon others joined, and all the starfish were saved. So this is adapted from The Star Thrower by Lauren Easley. And it kind of leads us into what today's topic is why I thought it made sense.
Yeah.
this idea of just helping one person and that not really mattering, or what can I do? I'm just one person. I hear people, I have people message me that'll say, you know, what you're doing is so amazing. I don't really know what I can do. Or I'm trying to learn to see how I can have a voice. People forget. They forget. Okay. So for example, me, I was literally just a mom who joined a Facebook group 5-6 years ago about parental rights. Okay. I had never known anything about this issue. I had never spoken publicly. I had never been in an organizational position of any kind of groups or anything like that. I was literally just a parent. Now, of course, I have a professional background that I could use those skills to kind of help, but so many of our listeners and so many of the people in this movement are educated and in the same boat. You don't have to be a certain kind of person to make a difference in this.
Right.
You don't have to do a certain kind of thing to make a difference in this. You just have to do something. And people forget that. So what we're going to talk about today, as we go into this, I'll tie it in, but we're going to talk about the 2 recent experiences I had with the Jimmy Kimmel show and with Jimmy Kimmel. And I've had people comment on those, on my posts about those things, saying, I could never do that, but you're so well spoken, it must be, you know, so easy. And people forget I'm also just a person, and I'm a person who has been forced into this position, and I've learned to develop skills that I did not have before because I needed them, not because they came easily to me. And people kind of forget that. So my most recent post was about going to Jimmy Kimmel book signing. And the post before that was about a silent protest we did at his show. And
yeah, and I remember you sent me a text. You're like, I might be arrested today, so you know, keep your phone handy. I'm like,
I did.
Yeah.
I did
I'm like,
say that.
okay, well, yeah, I can be your one phone call, sure. And I'm like, wait a minute, what are you doing?
And you're like, wait, arrested? Well, so last week there were 35 parents that came to the Jimmy Kimmel show, 33 of which were ticket holders. That went in to the Jimmy Kimmel show, unbeknownst to the show, as all part of a collective. And we were all wearing shirts that our child was injured. My son was injured by vaccines, my daughter was injured by vaccines, or my loved one was injured by vaccines. Those were the 3 shirts that we had, and everybody had them on underneath their clothing. So this was something organized by Joshua Coleman, which we have talked with him on the show. On the podcast before, and he's going to be part of the podcast tour coming up. And he has the Vias for Vaccine campaign that many of you already know about. The idea for this was a little bit different, though. The idea was not to have just vaccine facts as you see on the signs with the demonstrations. This was a little different. The idea for this was to not anger the employees and the staff and and Jimmy and his crew and the security guards and all that stuff. It was not to anger them and to piss them off and to make their life difficult, right? Because I know a lot of us have been in the circumstance with legislators and different people where, well, we've said our piece, we've been nice, we've been polite, we've been informational, we've done everything, and they still have chosen to go against us. And at that point, you say, as part of civil disobedience, as part of a resistance, we are going to make it difficult for them. Mm-hmm. And I support that 100%. There is a way to do that, of course. You know, you want to stay legal, you want to stay peaceful, but you can make things difficult for them so that they understand that we're not going away. And that is an approach that is used sometimes in some of the events that we do. But this was something different. This was the idea of let's not anger them, because just a few weeks prior, there were 2 people that came into his show and spoke out during the taping, which angered them, you know, and this was okay. I mean, this was, you know, this is all a process as we figure out how to get through to people who have publicly. And if for those of you who don't know, Jimmy Kimmel back in 2015 has made 2 separate public posts on his show, which of course millions of viewers. He has 17 million followers on Instagram or Facebook, one or the other. And he has a public platform. So he did 2 different broadcasts where he made fun of, quote, anti-vaxxers and basically how dumb they were for not trusting doctors and all these different things. He made light of the entire situation. The concern for that, of course, for many of us is you feel mocked, you feel degraded, you feel ridiculed, and you know that he doesn't have a clue about why you're even there and who you really are.
Right.
And so our goal is to make them have a clue, to make them understand who they're talking to, and also to let them know it's not okay. It's not okay to use your public platform to encourage people to discriminate against other people, to discriminate against children, or to encourage segregation. So that was the intention behind waking up people who have publicly come out against this, right? This particular event was all about acknowledging the injured. And acknowledging the injury, for me, and this is my view, and one I've held for a really long time, is that you allow somebody to see you differently. You allow somebody to see you not as a combative, angry dissenter, but more like a parent who has suffered with an injured child who just wants you to stop making fun of them.
Oh, yes.
Stop making fun of me.
Yes.
Please stop trying to tell the world I'm stupid and crazy and selfish, and to encourage your listeners and your viewers to join in on the fun and make fun of these people.
Yeah.
Like, it is not okay. And so the goal of this thing was to be silent, to not call out and interrupt any taping. You're not breaking any laws. You've gone through all of the processes for the tickets, that it's all legal. You've done everything and registered just the way you're supposed to do. And then there was a point in the show where we all stood up and just took off our jackets or what else we had covering up the shirt, and we just showed our shirts. And there's like kind of like a black light in there, so the white shirts really actually stood up, so
really?
you could see them.
Okay.
And it was many minutes, actually, of us up there.
As the show just went on.
The show's going on. He's interviewing the guy, the Spider-Man
Right.
guy who I don't know, Tom Holland. He's interviewing him. Jimmy doesn't see this happening, but all of a sudden you see, and this is a huge production. People don't understand, but this show has a lot of people working for them, and they work it like a machine. Everybody comes in a certain way. There is nobody stepping out of line. It's like, they do this 5 days a week. They know how to run this, and it's a tight ship, and there are a lot of people. So you start to see I saw the first security guard notice, and he's messaging on his little microphone. He's talking on his microphone.
Yeah.
We've got a problem. Yeah. Then you start to see one by one across you as you're watching, and you're standing straight ahead trying to stay as calm as possible while your heart is now racing because you don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
This has not been done before. Who knows what's going to happen? The last time they were manhandling these two mothers, and you don't know where this is going to go. The benefit to having so many people there was it was a lot harder for them to manhandle anybody with that many people. Because even as many security guards as they didn't have, there were more of us than there were of them.
Yeah.
I started to see the dominoes go. Each person goes to the next, goes to the next. And you could see the concern. They wrote something to Jimmy on a board to let him know to have to go to a break, which he was not going to go to a break. And he goes, I guess we're going to a break. And so he had to stop. So then he's like, what's going on? We were not saying anything. Of course, people in the audience are turning around, and they are looking, and they are wondering what's going on. In the back of our shirts say, stop the discrimination. So having stop the discrimination on there is like another way to say this is what Jimmy's doing in his talking, in his speaking. It's about this is discriminatory. And you could sort of, there was a calmness in this chaos. It wasn't like an angry, violent, tense kind of thing. It was, I started to cry like in the moment, because the thing is you're feeling so much. Yeah. You're feeling you're scared, you're nervous. There's a little bit of excitement of just like, oh my God, what's happening? There's, and then I just kept thinking, like, you're nervous going, like, I want to stop this feeling of uncomfortable feeling I have. I want to stop it. And the way to stop it would be to like leave or back out or not do it. Right. Because I know I've mentioned this before, and I don't think a lot of people get this about me, but I do have anxiety. I've told you this. Right. I only bring it up when I really need to explain something, because I've just gotten so used to dealing with it. Most people don't even know I deal with this because they think I'm so calm and cool and collected all the time. But you have to understand that I have the worst ping pong matches going on in my head during these kinds of moments, that I have to talk myself down from getting to a panic attack. I have to calm myself down. And this happens in emotional moments. It happens in stressful moments. It happens in frustrating moments. It can happen in different circumstances. It's not a daily thing, but anxiety for me is a daily thing. And I have to battle that a lot. And so I'm used to it as a performer because it also bleeds over into my music. As much as I've been on stage for all these years, it doesn't get any better for me. It hasn't gotten any better. You think it would. You think it would just get to that point. Unfortunately, I have good days and bad days, but there's never been a time where it's gone. And sometimes it gets really bad again. And I'm thinking, God, this is 30 years, almost 30 years later, I've been doing this. How is this still a problem for me? But it is. And so I've learned to sort of deal with it. I don't pretend it's not there because that's worse for me. Mm-hmm. I have to learn how to work with it. So sometimes in these moments for me, when these emotions come to a head, like I have no other way out than tears. Like that for me, I get really frustrated. Sometimes I just have to cry because I don't know how else to process, because I'm not a rageful person. I'm not the type that has to take it out by like being angry and hitting something. Like that's not really me. That's how it shows up for me. So in this moment, you can imagine time is ticking so slowly because you don't know what's happening. You're looking around. It's powerful. It's emotional. It's scary. It's all these things. You're watching people respond. You don't know what's coming. It's uncertain. There's all this going on at one time. And then within all that, I really stopped for a second and was like, what does my shirt say? Why am I even here?
Yeah.
And like that's the moment where the picture of your kid pops into your head.
Yeah.
And you're literally thinking, this is why I'm here. 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 This is for serenity. This is for serenity. You're telling yourself, let the other stuff pass. Let them know why you're here. And then the tears start flowing.
Yeah.
And I was wiping tears while security guards are looking at me.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that. Because I wanted them to know this was not a F you
right
to these people. We're just going to mess up this is not what this was.
Right.
This and it even wasn't so much for them. It was for us. It was like, the solidarity of parents. And it was one thing was interesting. The people next to me, the couple next to me, I didn't know they were with our group. And so there was an earlier time in the episode where we're taping, we're trying to have all this fun. That's what they're asking us to do, right? They want us to clap loudly and do all this. And I remember making eye contact with her thinking, she's probably not going to be that happy with me when she sees me stand up halfway during the show. Yeah. And so I don't want to be too friendly with her because she's probably going to look at me like I'm a bad person or something. I remember thinking that. Yeah. And then the moment we stood up, when I saw her stand up too, oh my God, it was so great. It was like, oh my gosh, it was almost as if the entire audience could have stood up at that point, and I realized we were all in this together. Like that's what it felt like. It was so cool. And the moments were going by very slowly, and I'm watching people respond. I'm trying to assess the situation and also just feel the moment. And then on one side, they had asked for people to leave, and our goal was not to cause any problems. We were going to be escorted out, then we're going to do so peacefully. And so we started kind of leaving, and a couple people had other members of the audience say, well done, or I'm sorry to hear that, about when they realized what our shirts said. And then on the way out, when I was coming to the bottom of the stairs where all the staff was waiting, I stopped another mother that was there, and I hugged her and waited there, hugging her in all visibility. On purpose, because I realized I wanted people to understand, like, first of all, it took a lot of courage for some of these people to really do something like this. Even me, you'd be surprised how nervous it can be doing something like this. I've never done something like this in my life. Like, that's probably why your jaw probably dropped when I said arrested. You're like, wait, what? I've never been arrested. I'm a rule follower. I'm not that person. I'm not a rebel. But I felt this was different. This event I wanted to be a part of because it was for my daughter, it was for awareness, and it was really from a place of open-heartedness. And then we left, and of course the tears were still coming kind of as I was outside the thing. But it was a nice moment, and I think it sort of perfectly led up to what happened after that with the book signing.
Yeah, well, I what I loved so much about what you guys did in that show was I imagine you touched the whole audience because and tell me what you think, sort of the looks you got or what you think the majority of the audience thought, but I felt like you guys were peaceful. You were not disruptive. Your shirts were very clear, very clear. You guys understand. And you guys, not only did this for yourselves and not only hopefully reached, Jimmy Kimmel, you guys reached, the security, but you showed that audience that there are 35.
33 were in there.
35 parents of vaccine injured children who are willing to do this and stand up. And you're all normal, regular looking people. You're not crazy people. You are respectful and you're peaceful. And you guys touched each one of those audience members probably in a very positive way. And then they're going to, go out, they're going to tell, they're going to tell everyone they know, and they're going to, tell you, you don't believe what happened. And you guys, that kind of thing really makes people think. And you left them hopefully with a very positive reflection on this issue, and to make them stop and think about, oh my gosh, if these parents are willing to do this, stand up for their vaccine injured kids, maybe I should stop teasing them. And maybe I should stop listening when Jimmy Kimmel makes fun of them. And
more than anything, seeing anti-vaxxers as somebody else.
Yeah.
So I think that was the difference. The difference is if I would have come in there with a shirt that said, vaccines are poison.
Right.
And then I would have stood up there, they would have been like, get these anti-vaxxers out of here.
Yeah.
The entire experience would have been different. Now, whether or not, as a listener, you believe that or not, that's not the point. Of course, we have a whole variety of listeners on all different, levels of the spectrum here of what their belief system is. It's not about your personal beliefs. It's about the real victims of what's been happening. And the real victims are children, real injuries.
Right.
And that is the thing that keeps getting ignored, denied, right. ignored. Right. So when you're a security guard or you're a staff member and you're thinking, I hate anti-vaxxers, let's say you think that.
Right.
And you see a mother stand up with a shirt that says, my daughter was injured by vaccines. As much as you want to, you can't hate that person.
Right.
As much as you want to think that's not true, that's not real, that probably didn't happen, or this person's, an inconvenience to me right now, as much as you want to think those things and lose your humanity and just be an a-hole about it. I wish I could curse, because in real life, guys, I really do curse. Like a sailor. So when you're that person viewing that, you have no choice. No choice if your heart is beating. You have no choice than to just soften a little bit and breathe a little bit, and you're going to look at somebody with a little more sympathy. And that is all we can ask for.
And every single one of us out there can do this.
Yes.
There's not a single listener or a single person in this movement who is incapable of simply going out into public and engaging one person.
Right.
Changing one person's heart. I think this is why it's really important for people to start, following, the V is for vaccine movement and getting together with other people in your state who are following those guidelines and following those ideas and doing this kind of thing where you are. I mean, go out and do this every day as an individual if you can. But then when you get together and you come with a great idea like this in your city and you have, 50 people doing it together, that's going to be so powerful, so impactful.
Yes.
And so, we had Joshua Coleman on the podcast, and I'd encourage you to go back and look at his contact information again. And what is it? It's V is for vaccine.com.
And then they just made the shirts available. So these shirts just were available as of, I think, yesterday under pansshirts.com. You check with Joshua Coleman. You can get the link directly, or we'll add it to our description if we can at this episode. The shirts that say, my son was injured by vaccines, my daughter was injured by vaccines, or my loved one was injured by vaccines. Josh talked about it the other day in his Facebook Live. He wants to see, and we've discussed this concept everywhere. See everyone wearing these shirts in their daily life. Going to the grocery store, going to Starbucks to get your coffee, going to pick up your kid from school. These are the times you wear these shirts as a walking billboard.
Right, and that's the perfect message because...
It's the right message.
Right, it's the right message because you're right. If you walk around with, vaccines are poison t-shirts... Right. You're going to turn off every single person around you. They're not going to want to engage you. You wear a shirt like this. Yeah, it is the begs
door
for interaction.
It is the door opener.
Right.
If anything, think about this at your kid's school. walking around with that other parent seeing this and knowing that, maybe they'll treat your child with a little more sympathy. Maybe they will look at you differently. Maybe they will understand this hits home and this is real and it's not just an urban legend. We have to start putting names and faces on this, and we have to start making vaccine injury a real thing everywhere. And if you say, as a listener, well, this didn't happen in my own family. The thing is, I guarantee you know somebody it happened to.
You have a loved one who was injured.
A close friend or family member. I guarantee you're in that position. And you know what? Every time you wear the "my loved one was injured," you are representing them and you're representing this cause and this movement. And this change in messaging, I think, is so important. You want to educate people with facts. Of course you do. But it's really hard in a short period of time to have an ideological argument with somebody on vaccines.
Right.
You don't need to argue your belief system versus their belief system, and you don't need to make them believe what you believe. You don't need to convince them. You don't need to win them over. What you need to do is just make them aware and human towards you and towards your family and towards others like you.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do with this.
Exactly. So tell us about your Jimmy Kimmel bookstore.
So he had a book signing for a children's book.
Okay.
Ironically, he had a book signing. He was only doing one book signing, and it was in LA. And I went to the book signing, unsure if I was really going to actually go in line and actually do it. Because again, you guys have to understand, like, I'm not intimidated by people or celebrities. I think it's silly that we give so much weight and credence to what a celebrity thinks or believes, as if it's somehow any more important than an average mother or father on the street. I don't believe that. However, when there is somebody that has bodyguards, security guards, and there's all these people waiting to meet them, and it's a public person, there is something that happens to you that you can't deny.
How to just survive standing in that line and stay calm.
It's a long time. I mean, there's a lot there that is, and trust me, I was second guessing myself many times. I was literally like, what's the point? I'm probably not going to get to talk about it. It's probably going to be awkward. We might not get to say anything. What's the point? What's this really going to do? Yeah. I remember thinking that several times. Yeah. And again, the thing that I kept coming back to was, but I'll be able to tell Serenity that I was brave for her. Yeah. I'll be able to tell her I didn't want to and I was scared, but you were the thing in my mind that actually made me stronger than I thought I could be. Because, when you're doing it for somebody else, you get strength that you didn't think you had. You get power you didn't think you had. Yeah, when it's about you, it's easy to crumble. But when it's for somebody else, it's almost like, well, this isn't for me, so I'm just going to be this strong person for her. And it gives you a little bit more ability to do something like this. And I was a little afraid as soon as you mentioned, vaccines or something, that somebody's going to come in and whisk you away, or he was going to say, we're not going to talk about it and that's it. Yeah. But that's not what happened. Yeah. And I was so glad that I saw it through and did it anyway. And I made a post about this. And like I mentioned, I kind of detailed the whole thing in my post. The real thing I wanted to kind of focus on was, and like I say in the post, what was the intention? Mm-hmm. And I truly believe in the power of intention. I think that if you go into any uncomfortable or contentious situation, you have to know what you want out of it, because what you want out of it is going to affect the way that you get there. And if your goal is to get some compassion and understanding, I mean, what do people really think you can go to Jimmy Kimmel with? What are you going to ask him to do? Jimmy, I want you to make a public apology. Well, that's not realistic. And that's not something you can realistically ask him or expect him to do. He has a right to his belief system. So that's off the table. What is it that you're going to come to Jimmy Kimmel to? What do you want him to do? All of a sudden become somebody who is promoting, vaccine choice and down with all these mandates? That's probably not going to happen. Right. You have to be realistic. So what I thought to myself, the same thing I wanted for the Wednesday taping, I wanted him to understand who he was talking about and who he was ridiculing. Yes. And I thought that if he could see a face, if he could hear a name, it would make it a lot harder for him to be a jerk about it. That's what I thought. I thought, if I can just do that, if I can try to be open-hearted and I can try to give a feeling to him that was not, I'm fighting you on this, but it was, please see me on this. Please hear me. Please feel what I'm feeling. Yeah. And that's, so I kept thinking, how can I make that happen in 30 seconds? in 40 seconds. You got a line full of people that were getting already very impatient.
Right.
Nobody was allowed to take photos with him, and our people were not happy about that. And people have been waiting, and it's been raining that day, and it's, a busy holiday weekend, and there's all this stuff going on. I'm thinking, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Which is calmness,
Yeah.
this energy. How can I get there when I'm nervous?
Yeah.
When I'm all these things and I'm tired and I'm exhausted and all these things that I'm fighting, and then I'm emotional too because
Yeah.
I'm thinking of my kid. And how do I take all that in 30 seconds and try to at least make it so he doesn't forget me?
Yeah.
Because that's really what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then Joshua Coleman had a conversation with him that he went right before me.
Okay. Right.
And he had a really long conversation, which was great. I'll tell you, my intention for the day was strengthened by seeing how Jimmy was willing to entertain the conversation. He did not shoo him away. His producer came up, who I recognized from the show, by the way, and I think she recognized me because she had made a comment earlier about if there's a problem, you get them out of line kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no. So she was waiting right by the side. I saw her get closer and closer, as did a security guard while he was having a conversation. She approached him and she tried to tell him, shut it down.
Right.
And he was like, I'm calm. I'm fine. Jimmy said this. I'm calm. I'm fine. She's like, well, there are a lot of people waiting.
Yeah.
And he didn't say, okay, I'm going to wrap it. He didn't say, he kept the conversation going.
Wow.
And now I don't know if that's because he had an inkling this was connected to the two other show issues,
Right.
and that he understands he's going to have to make peace with these people or there's going to be a problem. Or if he was just so moved by the fact that a parent was coming to him, standing in line, buying his book
Yeah.
just to tell him about their kid,
Yeah.
and how much guts he probably realized that took. So whatever it was, he was having a conversation that went on much long. I mean, people were yelling in the back about, they were upset that the conversation was going on that long. So it was starting to get uncomfortable, and he kept going. And I have to tell you, I gained respect for Jimmy in that moment before I had even spoken to him.
Cool.
I also knew I'm going to have to cut mine even shorter than I thought, because I'm not going to be able to go into some big spiel here. And I was glad that Josh had this long conversation with him. I was really glad. He got to show him a picture of his kids.
Yeah.
Jimmy had to hold the picture of his
Wow.
kids.
Yeah.
And he asked them about it. He said to him, you said your child was hurt by vaccines. What do you mean exactly? Is this why he's in a wheelchair?
Yeah.
He said that. That was
Wow.
realization. He asked about it.
Wow.
It was powerful. I almost was shocked a little bit, going like, oh my, like I didn't expect it to go this way. I wasn't sure what to expect. And I was so pleased. And at the end of it, Josh reaches out his hand to shake his hand, and shook his hand, and Jimmy shook it back. And it was just like this moment of man to man. I told him, go in there father to father. Do not go in there activist to entertainer.
Right. Right.
You know, and it's hard sometimes when you're considered a quote unquote leader in this movement. People expect you to do these things and do them a certain way. And you know what? Sometimes you also just have to be a person and be a parent and have your own individual conversation, which in this case turned out to be even more impactful, and it would have never happened had it not been that way.
Right.
The conversation would have never happened if you come in there like an activist. You come in there with your guns blazing. You come in there, you're shutting down the response immediately. You would have been signed the book and moved on. But when you come in there and you can hear the suffering in your voice, the pain,
Yeah.
anybody with a heart. And,
Yeah.
you know, some people say maybe it was it's a PR thing for him. He knows how to do it. And maybe that's true. But I'll tell you, when I came to my spot in line, and I came to the table with him, and I got to mention Serenity's name, that's the first thing I said. When I told him about what happened to her, you know, we didn't have much time. I briefly told him. It's like I saw him physically like exhale. Like you could see him drop a little bit because, oh, hi, how old's your daughter? Oh, that's a great age. And then as soon as I said what I said, it was like a drooping of, he put the pen down. His arms were extended on the table. My hands were extended on the table. Our fingers were like 4 inches from each other. I can see that in my photo when I look
Right.
back. These guys behind me took. Our body language was, this is comfortable to just be here in this moment. And I told you the first thing I said to him after he said her name, I told what happened. I said, I'm not going to go at it with you. I said that to him.
Yeah.
I didn't want him thinking I was about,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into it with you. The first thing I said was, I just want to thank you for the conversation you just had. Thank you for being willing to have that conversation. And he was just like you could tell, I could feel he was moved by it. I went into the stuff, like I say in my post, kind of about, my kid took one for the team. She didn't ask to be here. She doesn't deserve to be discriminated against. We're educated parents. There's been a lot of suffering here. Yeah. And I was able to say those things amongst my nerves.
Wow.
And I almost felt like I didn't need to say more. That's when he came back with I'm really going to try to be more sensitive on this issue. Right. And when he said that, I just was like, wow, I didn't even ask him. And I didn't know at that time he had said that to Josh too, which is okay, because I feel like he understands something has to be done. But he offered that to me. I didn't say to him, Jimmy, you need to be more sensitive on this issue. Right. He offered that to me. I was just trying to be a parent. I was just trying to show him I'm hurt. And I think I got that across. He looked at me so intently, like 3 different times in that 45 seconds or whatever I had. He put the pen down. His arms are out. He's looking at me like he really knows me. And it's a little awkward when there's a stranger that looks at you that intently. Yeah. I remember feeling that little bit of like he's holding gaze a lot longer than I feel is comfortable for a stranger. Yeah. And that's how I knew, though, something had happened. Yeah. Something had transpired. And it was emotional. It was power, and it was a lot of things. And it happened in such a short period of time, and it was as good as it could have been. Yeah. The most I could have ever really wanted from him. I was polite. I was respectful of what he had to say. I exited, and people that wonder, oh, he could have just been saying that and nothing's going to ever happen. I didn't think anything was going to happen. I don't think this is going to ever make him do something grand. Like, that was never part of I am smart enough to understand how this works. But it could have been a lot worse. He could have shut down the conversation completely. He could have been a total ass about it. He could have made some kind of rude remark. He chose to be a human being in that moment. And I will tell you, I believe it has everything to do with the way that we approached it and with the intention that is set for the day. And in posting about this, I've had over 500 comments on my post, just comments, which is, you don't really see a lot of people engage that much. The comments are all saying, this is the way we need to do it. This is powerful. Mm-hmm. This is how we have to go forward in this movement. We have to set an intention. We have to ask for compassion. We have to speak from the heart. This message, it wasn't so much that anything crazy happened in those few moments. It was that the message of being human to human, heart to heart, which we've talked about this in our town halls. You need to have heart to heart conversations. And it's not just with celebrities or anybody who's well-known. It's about the same exact thing is true for your neighbor or your friend or your mother-in-law or whoever. You have to have this level of intention to be able to get a response that is going to make a difference for us as a movement. We don't need to have the my study, your study argument. Right. I always say that to people that are battling online. Like, sometimes people will message me, can you go comment on my post? and I'll go look at the post sometimes and go, what's your goal? Right. What are you trying to accomplish here? Because if you're trying to argue one fact about one disease or whatever, most of the time you're wasting your time. Right. If your goal is to show that it's not always black and white, but you have to know what your goal is, and then that's what your comments should be. And don't waste your time back and forth with a super pro-vaxxer who's got the 18 studies that they want to show you about this and that. Don't waste your time. Take your time out in the world with your "my child was injured by vaccines" shirt, my son or daughter was injured by, and go be a receiver for somebody who has a question. Be the person who's going to be there to have the conversation and open the door for somebody else to have a little more compassion. And does that mean I think we all have to be weak and just take it? Absolutely not. I think you still go firm and you stand strong, and you still, if somebody is threatening your right to an education for your child, your right to have medical choices for your family, you fight back and you fight, and it's not always going to be pretty. So don't mistake what I'm saying, This idea of having a heart-to-heart and being compassionate, it does not mean be weak and just accept what people are doing and always turn a blind eye and give the smile in return. That is not what I'm saying.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm a fighter in this, and I truly believe that if you have anger and you have resentment, you have a right to have all of that. Please don't think, I've had people comment, I'm often too angry, I need to change my approach. And what I say to them, take your anger and funnel it. Don't lose the anger, because you should never feel guilty for being angry about what's happened to your child. Be angry, be emotional, be upset, be frustrated. Take that fire that is yours to claim, because you deserved every bit of that, and you have suffered, you have experienced hardship. Don't let anybody tell you shouldn't feel this way. You shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't feel emotional. Like, no way. You should feel all those things. Take it. Same thing we said when people are talking at the microphone and talking to legislators. Take that energy, but funnel it into something impactful and effective. You being angry will not allow the person to hear you.
Yeah.
You being angry is justified. It's justified. You have a right to feel it. I think every single one of you that is pissed off, like, I am with you. I want you to have that and claim that until you're ready to get rid of that. Maybe somewhere down the line, you can let that go. But until you're ready, you keep it. You keep it if that's what you feel. Don't let anybody tell you you don't have a right to feel that way. Take that and learn how to find power in that and make it a silent power, make it a grounded power, and realize the thing that makes the difference is not going to be yelling at somebody or attacking them or scolding them or making them feel stupid for believing in vaccines or all the things that I've seen people do. That is not going to work with people. And that's not even what your goal is. Your goal is our goal to convince everybody to believe what we believe? No. Our goal is for people to treat us fairly, right? Isn't that the goal?
Right.
It's not to change somebody's mind. I don't care what you believe. I just don't want you discriminating against me and my kid. And I don't want laws that are forcing me to do things against my will. So that's all that it is. That's my goal. Everything else doesn't matter to me. So if you know what your goal is, you set your intention on how to get to that goal. And being angry will never get me compassion from somebody else.
Right.
And so I've had so many conversations over the last 5 years about this issue. I know what I've seen work and doesn't work. I've seen what turns people off and what opens people's eyes. And we have got to start being clued into how people respond, how to make this a human issue, and how to make this personal. And again, remember why we are all doing this. It's not for us. It's for our kids. So what better way to highlight that than to wear the fact that our kids are hurt or our loved ones are hurt or a child that you know that's very close to you is hurt. Let's wear that message. Let's wear it in our clothing. Let's wear it, have it in our signs. Let's wear it in our message. Let's say it in our words. Let's let that be the thing that we give to people to ask of them. We're asking them, please just understand that this has happened and that we have been hurt, and that we exist, and that we deserve fairness here. That's what we're asking. And I think enough of us do this, which is where it's going. This is going to be a message they're not going to be able to counter. There is no way the quote unquote scientific establishment, medical establishment will be able to counter a message of compassion and love and injury that they even cannot deny exists. They cannot tell you it doesn't happen because they know it happens.
Right.
They can say it's rare, but they can't tell you it doesn't happen. So they will not be able to counter this message at all. They can try to counter aluminum's dangerous.
Right.
They can try to counter that the schedule's a risk. They can try to counter those messages, but they can't counter this one.
Yeah, and if they try to counter it and try to say, no, you as a mom, that your child wasn't injured by vaccines, then they become the bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
They become the evil institution that's trying to suppress people. And
everybody knows
helps.
that drugs have side effects. Pharmaceutical products, biologics, vaccines are no different. This is all part of the same thing. No person on this earth can deny that it happens.
Right.
We know it happens. Even if it's rare, maybe these kids with the shirt, the parents with the shirt, maybe it was to them. It doesn't matter. At least now you know it's happening. And this has to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
It has to be part of the conversation. And it's, like you said, it's a door opener for others to see and want to know more and to have sympathy and to look at you differently and to not want to flip you off and say you're ruining society because you're going to make diseases come back. People aren't going to say that to you with that shirt on.
Right.
They cannot.
Right.
And they'll maybe understand a little more about why you're so angry, why you're so upset, why you're in this position. You know, I was thinking that about Josh, that I was thinking if Jimmy knew he was responsible, he might have already known that maybe about him because of, you know, Facebook Lives that were leading up to those two events. He might already know about him. But to know a little more about why he's doing this makes a lot more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're a father. You see somebody else who's maybe been causing a little inconvenience to your show, and you see their child in a wheelchair, and you go, light bulb. I freaking get it now. I get why you're doing this. I would do the same thing if it were me. And that's the difference. We all have to have our messages and our education and our facts, but we have to put it in context.
Yes.
We can't just go out there guns blazing. We have to put it in context.
Yeah, you're never going to change someone's mind or reach someone's mind until you've reached their heart first.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah,
that is like the crux of everything. You will not open the door to an education or open their mind to anything until you open their heart and drop the defenses, break the wall down so that it doesn't have to be about, I'm fighting for my belief, you're fighting for yours, but it is, let me hear you. I want to hear you. I'm going to be, and that moment could be a minute. You might have a 30-minute conversation with somebody. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. Remember your intention. Remember the focus and what you want to come out of it with. When you leave that conversation, how do you want to feel about it? Do you want to say, they looked at me. They actually looked at me and they felt something. And that matters. That means something. I know they will remember me and they will remember this conversation forever. If that's not what you want to happen, then you're doing this all wrong, because that is what you should want at the end of every conversation on this issue. And if you can come out of that, even 75% of the time like that, then you're doing it right. This is the way to do it. You want people to remember you. You want people to really be moved and changed.
Oh, that is so key in every conversation, especially with legislators, that you just want them to remember that you were that person that got them they saw you as a human. They saw you as a intelligent person with a real life experience, and that matters. And I've loved sitting here listening to you share all this, and I see the emotion in your eyes, and I see the tears, and I personally I feel like so privileged to be your friend and not just your partner in this movement, but to be able to be the friend of a person that is just so you're so filled with truth and good, and your heart is so in this, and your heart is so real, and you love to reach people that way. I mean, you love making connections with people because that's what matters. And I just, to me, it's like you're kind of like you're like my celebrity in that sort of sense.
Oh, you're silly.
No, but I mean, I just love that you are just such this regular person. You're just a mom in the most amazing way, in the most deep and personal way that matters so much. And I think it's people like you with that kind of heart that are going to change this movement, and that they're going to go out there and change hearts one at a time. And you notice I didn't say change minds. I said change hearts. And every single person, listening to this can do what you just did with, even it doesn't have to be with a celebrity. It can just be with one regular person. There's you pick up one starfish and put them back in the ocean so they can live and be happy and know the truth. You can change one person's mind. And if we all do that's we're going to win this. And I just I think you and I identified, a long time ago, when we started working together, that there were things we saw in each other that we thought were going to make us a great team and make us, make us be exponentially better than who we are and more effective in who we are. And that's what I've seen in you, just the way you were so personal with this. And I love that. And I appreciate you for that. And I know you're going to inspire people in this specific way, in the way that matters the most. It doesn't matter that I'm telling people the right facts and giving people the right information. This is what matters more, is how to inspire, encourage people to use their humanity to touch others. And so I love when I read your Facebook post, and I was like, that's how you got to Jimmy Kimmel, and you I don't know. So you inspire me to do this, because I won't be able to wear one of those shirts that says my son was injured by a vaccine or my daughter was injured by a vaccine.
But you can wear on my loved one.
I would wear a shirt that my loved one was injured by a vaccine. Oh, because I love Serenity, and
your hundreds of patients.
That you've had this thousands of
patients.
patients that I've had to sit and have this conversation with. I can wear the shirt for each one of them. And when there are people like your family and these thousands of patients in my life, that's what makes me keep going.
Sure.
That's what makes me, not want to give up and just sit back and rest. And it's the people that are in this that I'm fighting for. So I appreciate that drives me and inspires me. Again, that's, I know I'm 100% confident that we're going to win this battle, that we're going to win this. And it's because of this. It's because of the humanity of it. The humanity is on our side, and humanity is always going to win. So,
and I think that's what kind of inspires me too. When obviously we were really lucky with Serenity that it wasn't so much worse. And there are so many families who are suffering and have suffered so much worse, and that they are full-time caretaking for these children that are now chronically injured forever or disabled. Yeah. And the reason I'm able to even go to events and take the time to do things is because we were luckier than others in that sense. And so they inspire me to keep doing it because I know they're not able to leave the side of their child who requires that full-time care. And they're not able to go out and get there and to show up and be there at some of these places. So I do that even for them. And I think to myself, yes, it's for my own daughter, but it's also on behalf of all of these children that I have met and seen and heard about, and the parents that I know. It's such a ripple effect that when every time you're standing up for your own kid, you're standing up for everyone else's. Yeah. And that's why for those who say, well, it didn't happen to my kid, so I can't say anything, you're kind of missing the point, because it's not about just your kid. It's about our kids as a society that it's happening to. Yes. Yeah. And so everybody can be standing up for that. And I appreciate what you said. I think the holidays have gotten you a little sentimental. This is so nice. It's Christmas time. It's a perfect time to feel that way. And I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, I think in 5 years, I've kind of, you sort of fine tune what your mission and focus is over the time, right? And you first come in, it's all about facts. Let me find these facts. And I was all about the data, and let me show you these numbers don't add up, And I still, of course, love that. But the more conversations that you have, the more you realize what makes a difference. And it kind of metaphorically goes along to my music career. Like I spent my whole, first 15, 20 years of my singing career trying to impress people with my vocals. Mm-hmm. Now, I used to sing a lot bigger songs than what you guys have heard. So you might be like, really? Our stuff's not that impressive. My little videos on Facebook are just fun, by the way. I mean, I used to record and do big songs and, and the whole thing was, how long can you hold this note? These big notes, and, you're singing Whitney Houston and Chaka Khan and Celine Dion songs. And it's like, you're trying to impress people, right? Well, down the line now, fast forward, and now I'm singing kind of at churches, and you're singing in the morning on a Sunday where your voice doesn't sound so great at 8 a.m. You can't do those big songs easily. So you start changing your repertoire and picking different songs. But then the goal is, how can I be as impressive without singing the big notes? How do I make people really think you're amazing or moved by you? And I learned the best lesson I ever learned in music in those moments when it took a while, but I learned it's not about you. You are the messenger. It is about the music. Make people feel something.
Yes.
And so I took songs that were vocally unimpressive, and I found a way to say the words and tell the story and let my heart go out there with them, connect with them. And I have people that come up to me that were crying saying, this moved me, this touched me. And I thought to myself, whoa, now that is power.
Yeah.
That is power. You don't need to do the big notes and all that stuff. That's not what matters. People don't remember that. They remember feeling transfixed and feeling like they went somewhere else. And so I kind of, over the last maybe 6 or 7, 8 or 9 years, have learned that lesson in my music after all these other years of doing it a completely different way. And I kind of see that as it's a parallel to what's happening in this movement for me. You start out with the facts, and I've got to convince you to believe these things. And then you start to realize what really matters. And what really matters is making that same thing, that heart connection. Make people not forget you. Make people understand and want to grab your hand for a second, even though they're a total stranger, and say, I'm so sorry this happened to you. And I'm with you. And thank you for telling me your story. Make people have those moments, because guess what, guys? We're in a society where that's not happening much with anybody on anything. People are no longer connecting to each other. Everybody is virtually wrapped up in their relationships. They're not real anymore. People are not spending time with people anymore. They don't have that level of investment in each other anymore. So you can believe me when I say you have an eye-to-eye, heart-to-heart conversation at the car wash with somebody for a couple minutes while they're waiting for their car, and they will remember you, because nobody has taken the time to do that with them in probably 10 years, maybe longer. It is so sad, but true. People aren't even doing it with their family members. So people are missing that connection. We have a real opportunity right now in this level of society where we are, to take it and to go to that place again that matters. And we have a real opportunity to make a stamp on every single person that we interact with. And if they want to come back to you later and ask more, there's plenty of time to open their mind. Right? This is
totally.
the time to just, like, you know, it's kind of like the phrase namaste, right? It's like the namaste in me, see, the God in me sees the God in you. It's the moment of taking that, like, I am realizing you're a human, I'm a human. Let's just both be human together in this moment. And it's a beautiful thing. And you know, you feel so good after. You don't feel combative and you don't feel angry. And you don't know what's going to happen. Nothing might not ever happen. You might not ever see something happen with that person. They may never come up to you and say, I want to join the movement. They may never come up to you and say, I just talked to our principal and I'm going to have him change the laws at our school. You know, that may never happen, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because enough of these little connections will eventually be the tipping point. You know that that's the case. And don't wait to see something to think it worked. Just know it worked by it happening at all. Just from it happening at all, it worked. It's all energy. I'm sorry. Am I ranting about this now?
No, this has just been so amazing to see you on a personal level like this. And I'm happy that our audience gets to see you, you know, gets to see a fraction of you in the way that I get to see you. And so I know that's really touching people and motivating people. And again, it seems corny, but it starts out simply with a t-shirt and these, you know, 4x6 cards you can put around places and just to get the conversations going. So then you get to share your humanity with that person. And so I encourage you guys to just take up this task just on a personal level, just this personal day-to-day.
You just gave me an idea for a new card.
Yeah. All right.
Ooh, good. I have a new idea for a card, guys.
We'll save it.
I'm not going to tell you. Ooh, I have a new idea.
Sweet.
Okay.
Well, I can't wait.
Well, hey, information on lots of different ways. It's all good. And coming from all the different angles, it all works. Keep doing the demonstrations. Keep going to your legislators. Keep talking to your friends and family. Keep having your conversations online. Keep doing everything. But don't only do online. You have to be out there in person. Keep being peaceful. Keep being loving. Remember your intention. And don't lose your fire. Don't lose your strength. You can be a lion in this. And you can still be loving and compassionate. You don't have to somehow become a mouse. Stay the lion. because I respect the lion. I admire the lion in all of you, in women, in men. I want to see that. That's the thing that pushes us against all odds to be doing all this stuff. So you don't lose the lion. You let the lion take a little breather while you go heart to heart, and he's there ready to go whenever you need him. Like, that's the way I would look at it, is don't drop that. I love that. That thing needs to stay there, and that's the thing that your kids are going to be so proud of down the line when they realize what you've been doing for them.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I'm proud of every single one of you guys that are getting involved in this in any way. You want to get involved in more, then do it. Now's the time. You're already busting your butt, then, I applaud you. And I'm so happy for all these people. I can't wait till this just blows up and goes everywhere, and just everybody's doing it. I want to see pictures of other people's experiences. I want to hear their stories. I want this to be everywhere.
Yeah. And we're kind of already almost halfway through December right now, and Christmas is coming up, and I feel like, I don't know, I might wish everyone a Merry Christmas right now, and then, a happy holiday. And
send us your card. We want to send holiday cards.
Yeah. Melissa had this great idea. We thought, we love getting cards, and we would love it if everyone could mail us Christmas cards, pictures of your family.
Yeah,
and
we would love to see it.
And on our immunityeducationgroup.org website, under the donate section, the take action and donate section, you'll see my office address. And I want to get all these cards, and I want to take pictures of them, have Joshua Coleman take video of them, and we can even add that in, maybe even add that into the documentary somehow. Just say, these are the faces of people across America who are having this vaccine
and
conversation.
even into the new year, if you're late on sending, that's totally fine. Send it through Christmas, through the new year, or the first beginning of January. But we want to hear from you and see, who we're talking to, and see the families.
Because that feeds us like you would not believe. And so we're probably we probably won't do any podcasting the week of Christmas.
Right.
And so, the next time we might see you guys might actually be in the new year. So
please send us your Christmas cards. We should have said at the beginning of the episode. What if they didn't make it this far? Maybe we'll put in our description of the episode briefly for a while, and then we can take it out.
Listen to the whole thing. No.
Yeah. This is a good discussion to keep having, keep people encouraged about stuff like this. And please send us comments if you've been doing stuff like this, and tell us a story of something that you've had that happened. Mm-hmm. Write it on our review on IEG Facebook page, or send us a message, and then maybe we'll read some of these stories on here of experiences that you've had that have really made a change in somebody, and how you've been changed by it.
All right, you guys. Well, we will thank you for this very, very special episode to me, and it really touched me. And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time
on the Vaccine Conversation. Melissa and Dr. Bob.
We're gonna be the peace we wanna see in the world. Yeah, be the peace we wanna see in the world. Be the love we wanna see in the world. Be the joy we wanna see in the world. Be the change we wanna see in the
The information in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice. Always consult your healthcare professional for information on vaccines and infectious diseases.